Welcome back to another episode of Truth or Theory. This is episode 91.
91.
91. We're almost to the big 100, guys. This is good stuff.
Yep.
I'm JP, as
and
always.
I'm E. Willie. I'm still E. Willie after all these episodes. Yeah, we're working on something fun for the 100th episode, so stick around for that one. We're going to have a lot of repeating favorite guests coming back. We're going to have some games, all kinds of silly BS is
There's
coming.
Going to be streamers and balloons and nachos and you name it.
Yep.
It's going to be a good
Maybe
time.
clowns.
Maybe clowns.
Maybe jugglers.
Hey.
We're going to do something big for the 100th episode. But this is actually going to be our last episode in this beautiful little sweet studio that we've called home. We got signed a contract in New York City. We're going to be in Times Square doing actually, no, that's not happening.
I'm going to get a guitar and a pair of whitey tighties.
Yeah. I have an apartment now, so I'm going to have to do it in our conference room. We're going to make it work, though. It's going to look very different. I'm not going to have all this stupid nostalgia decor crap everywhere, but
it's not stupid.
We'll have it's not stupid to us because it's ours, man. We love it, brother. But yeah, the show's going to change a little bit, but it's still going to be strong. Still going to be stupid. Still going to be informative. It's going to be a good time.
Coming with the facts.
Yeah, we're coming with facts and the truth and no theories.
There's some theories.
Some theories. Yeah. All right. Anyway, for old time's sake, would you like to cheers to some good news? Neither one of us have a drink.
Cheers to your good news.
What's my good news?
Well, good. You got your spot, man.
I got my own place, bro.
Yeah, you got your own place.
You took my good news.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
I got to take
into your good news.
All right, man. I appreciate that. Cheers to me having my own space to get out of the drama. A lot of things have changed since the last update that I put out there about my situation. I'm not going to go into all that drama, but things are getting better. Mrs. and I are trying to work out our drama and stay civil. It is not easy. There's a lot of hard feelings and with the kids and everything. It makes it rough, but we're making it happen. We made an agreement to be as civil and as close to friends as we can to make this process go easier. But every day is a challenge for sure. And you guys know I'm an aggravating son of a bitch. It's not easy divorcing me. I'm not the easiest guy to get along with. Or am I? I'm freaking awesome.
I've never divorced you.
We're going to get married on the 100th episode and then divorced on the 200th episode.
Here you go. We got another 100 in us.
Yeah, we're going to do it. But yeah, there's lots of cool stuff on the horizon. Just bear with us, guys. And as far as the Patreon goes, I'm not sure how we're going to figure that out yet because there's going to be a gap in time. We're not going to ask you guys to be paying for a membership with no content.
Absolutely
so
not.
We're going to freeze that some kind of way, and we'll keep you in the loop on how that's going to play out and where you can go to get more information on that. But yeah, it's going to be good. So my cheers to good news is since someone took mine, I guess we'll say that fall's coming up close, man. Today was a slight little hint at the weather getting a little bit easier to tolerate, man.
I'm so sick of the 90s being in the 90s.
Yeah, dude, it was in the 80s today, man. It felt nice.
Oh.
So I love me some fall weather. That's my favorite time of the year. It's right around the corner. So cheers to better weather, better days. And we're going to introduce our guest now. JP, would you like to introduce our guest?
Yeah, tonight we got Ashley Rindsberg.
And he is going to tell us about some cool shit. And I'm excited to learn about the stuff that he's got a book out. And the man's in high demand right now. He's going to be doing our interview and jumping into another interview. So
yeah,
we're going to probably do this kind of quick, but we're going to pick his brain as fast as we can.
For all we got.
And we'll get him back on later on. We can dive into stuff more with him. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our show. Thanks for listening. And please welcome our guest, Mr. Ashley.
Welcome, you guys. Sir. Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for having me here. Pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Our pleasure.
Got the electric lava lamp.
Yes.
Which is, I'm just staring like tunnel vision at the electric. Yeah. You got a technical name. I just can't remember what it is.
It's a plasma ball. But if you look at my eyeballs close up, it's the exact same thing. I'm generating that with my brain and my mind.
Seething cauldron of energy.
Yeah, it's a little Tesla ball. So, Mr. Ashley, would you like to share any good news? Do you have anything on your mind?
I had my 2.5-year-old had his first haircut today.
That's exciting.
That's a milestone.
And milestone. And he was chill. He was calm. He liked it. Thought he was going to freak out, but he didn't. So
good.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Cheers. Good job, young man. Yeah, I've seen some when I'm go to get my haircut. I've seen some kids like completely lose it. It's like the worst experience ever. So I'm glad your boy had a good first run at it.
Thank you.
How'd the haircut come out?
Really good, really good. It's got a kind of cool 70s surfer thing.
Oh,
Yeah, style. Like he's got some style.
Good.
yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. So, can you give us, our listeners, and JP and I, well, JP mainly, I know all about you. I've researched and I've done all the homework, but can you tell everyone else just a little bit about yourself that you don't mind sharing, and then we're going to go into what we're going to talk about.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a writer, author. I just got a book out right now called "The Gray Lady Winked," which is about how the New York Times is misreporting fabrications and distortions radically alter history. Or when I talk about it, talk about how the New York Times and a lot of the news media with it really edit reality. They don't just edit the newspaper or edit so-called first draft of history, but they're editing the reality around us. So I wrote that book. Around about 15 years ago, maybe a little more, in first version, and then shopped it around publishing and media people, and they all slammed that door on me because some of them just told me outright there's no way we could oppose the New York Times. They're too powerful.
Ooh, that's so interesting.
Too scary, too much of a
Yeah.
risk to their businesses. So I put it on a shelf for quite a while. Then, as you know, this conversation about medias and fake news and truth is kind of rising to the surface. I dusted it off. I added a chapter, cleaned it up, and published it in May. And it's been sort of off to the races. People really, turns out, interested in this topic of.
Cheers to that book too, brother.
Man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you
awesome.
so much. Yeah. So that's me. I live in Israel, just outside Tel Aviv, in the center of the country, and grew up all over the U.S. I grew up in California, Philadelphia, Vegas. Was born actually in South Africa. So spent my whole life moving around, and yeah, that's kind of like that note of exploration, searching, seeking, always looking for around the next bend to see what's there. Like I've got one of those. Maybe you guys can relate to that, but that personality that always wants to go a little further and just like a little further and check things out. So that's what this book was about as well. It's kind of like doing that investigation, seeing what's really there. Like when you peel back that first layer, you get to the next one, and then you keep going, and that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
And so what made you move around so much? It's military related, or what's going on there? Or can you not say?
No, it's not military. It's just it's history related. I'd say like my grandparents on both sides fled Europe prior to the Holocaust, and the only place they were able to go from Europe, from Lithuania and Germany, was Africa. No one else. The borders were closed. The U.S. was not taking very many refugees. So they went to South Africa. They got there. They started a new life. My parents were born there. And when they sort of came of age and looking around the political situation in South Africa, they're like, no, thank you. And moved onward to America. And then I sort of took up that mantle and was kind of like, well, I want to go check out my roots in Israel, in the Holy Land. And when I was 23 years old, I got a job on a sailing yacht as a deckhand and sailed from Italy to Greece for a couple months, and then just kind of landed in Israel, took a look around, and was like, okay, same idea. I got to check this out. I got to see what's here. This is very different from what I ever imagined, whatever I'd known in my life as an American. So yeah,
That's a very interesting past, man. That's really cool.
Thank
so
you.
The book thing, that's fascinating to me. Like just the whole thing of getting published as a whole is a trick. It's not easy, but to do it with a controversial subject and you're attacking a big company, like calling them out for who they are, that's crazy, man. But it's so awesome that now that we're in this information war, somebody bid on it and got you published.
Yeah, well, you know, the New York Times is really a special case because when you think about what's the most effective, powerful marketing tool in all of book publishing, it's the New York Times bestseller list. And no one wants to screw around with that. Like no one wants to risk having their authors, their clients banned from the list, or because the New York Times, among many other things, sort of tampers with the list. They don't just run the numbers, then like say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're using their own editorial judgment to see who gets on the bestseller list, and they can keep people off it, which they actually have been found to do.
Dang. Have they ever come after you?
No, not yet. But I'm nipping at their heels, and I can feel like I know I'm starting to gain their attention, and
Yeah.
that's a good thing because I really want them to understand how I've looked at the newspaper, and what I've identified as being critical flaws with it, and not just with that single newspaper, but that is a symbol of the bigger news media. I mean, it's like the flagship of the American news media. It's an icon, it's a symbol. And when you look at the New York Times, you understand a lot about what's going on in media and the sort of corporatization of the American news media, that's been increasingly in the hands of a smaller number of people over the last 30, 40, 50 years.
Man, that's such a huge thing that the average person doesn't think about at all either. There's so much propaganda behind that and guiding which way our country goes, which way our civilians think, all that stuff. That's a
Yeah,
fascinating
it's
thing.
we've all learned and been taught through the media to think about things like big tobacco, big pharma, big ag, big chemicals, but we've never really paid attention to big media, which is exactly what this is. Like, you look at these media organizations, these are news organizations, they're owned by gigantic corporate behemoths. And those corporations, they don't have a lot of scruples when it comes to their bottom line. They will do whatever it takes. And the New York Times is sort of like that, except it's controlled at least by one family. It's like, it's really what we would now call a patriarchy that's handed power from male heir to male heir. It's like real primogeniture for 120 years. And not only are they a corporate giant, I mean, they're worth $10 billion in this company, but they control how we think about what's going on in the world around us. They set the agenda for the news industry, the New York Times. They influence policy and policymakers and politics, of course. So it's really when you got that collision of money and our perception of reality, that's where we have to start asking some really difficult questions and do the kind of thing that we're all doing right now, which is starting podcasts, listening to them, appearing on them, hunting down our own understanding of the facts and corroborating them ourselves to the best of our ability.
Interesting.
Man, as a fan of other shows and this kind of stuff, I really want to hear you talk to two of our podcasting friends. Have you been in touch with the Propaganda Report or Macroaggressions with Charlie Robinson?
It rings a bell, but I don't know them.
Okay,
I'll
I'm
have
going
to
to
do
talk
some
to you
research
offline.
after.
Yeah,
Cool.
we'll talk
Thank
offline
you.
about it and get you booked up with them. They have a bigger audience than we do, and they're much smarter than JP and I, unfortunately.
Yeah,
It is what it is.
First one's debatable. They're definitely smarter than us, though.
Yeah, they would have a good conversation with you too that I would like to hear. So we need to
Awesome.
hook you up with that, and I'll help you
Thanks.
get you more exposure.
Thank you.
But yeah, man, how do you feel like doing that? I would feel nervous as shit going after such a big empire as New York Times. Do you feel like you got a target on your back now? Is your family worried about it?
No, I don't think so. I think we're all kind of exposed to that kind of vulnerability today,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're publishing a book like this one or not. I think we're all kind of in that space where, like, if you tweet the wrong thing, you say the wrong thing on YouTube, or you write the wrong thing in an article or an email,
Yeah.
even, it's like, boom, like anything can happen. I think we all live with that reality. The New York Times for sure is a big target, and or makes me a bigger target. But at the end of the day, I'm playing on their field, and those are the rules everyone plays by. Like, call them out, they can call me out, they could come after me, they could sue me if they wanted to, they could do all sorts of things. Doesn't really bother me that much. Like, I don't really think too much about it. I did at some point, and at some point I did worry about it, but at some point you're just like, you know what, who cares? Like, bring it on, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So I'm all right with it.
I want to ask you, what do you think about other just mainstream media in general? Is it all gone down the crapper, or what do you think?
I think it definitely needs a reset. I think we have lots and lots of great reporters out there doing awesome stuff. And I think there's also been this really interesting shift in the media politically, where you've got guys like Glenn Greenwald, or like the hard left, who are now appearing on Fox News, on Tucker Carlson, because those barriers have kind of dissolved in a certain way, because Glenn Greenwald can't really go to the New Yorker, or like a prestigious New York media outlet, because they're no longer in line with each other politically. So he's found a new home. And that's something we're seeing across the board. It's really an interesting thing, where people who once considered themselves, let's say, liberals or even leftists, are now working with people like Carlson, who's like a staunch Republican, because the ideas align, because there's intersection on the ideas, which is kind of a cool thing when you think about it, because people are like, screw it, I don't care. Okay, he's got a different opinion on 9 other issues, but on this one issue, we can talk. And that's
Right.
really what you want to be able to do. And that's what bipartisanship really is. But when you look at the mainstream media, corporate media, that's not how they play the game. They are very much like calling the sides. Like if you're Don Lemon or Don Lemon, however you pronounce his name on CNN, it's like he's gonna hoist you up if you're on his side, and he's gonna crush you if you're not. And I don't really think that's a good way to have discourse. But for them, again, you look at the corporate interest, that drives clicks, it drives audience numbers, viewership numbers. So they like it. So they think. I think they're taking a very short-term view of things, and they're not looking at developing long-term audiences to their own detriment. But I think it's also to our detriment as well as the public.
Interesting.
Yeah, for sure. What's some like big things you can think about in somewhat recent history that you've seen that it's been very biased and played a factor in manipulating people's opinions and perspectives on things that actually wasn't that way?
I mean, the big thing for me right now is lab leak. You know, the possibility that the pandemic originated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a perfectly credible, sane, maybe even probable idea. But for a year and a half, the entire news media worked to discredit it and to smear anyone who even explored it as a conspiracy theorist. And you got to think to yourself, wait a second, why did they do that? Well, how is that in their interest? Whenever you look at the news media trying to like kind of put the kibosh on a story, that's always a red flag, because journalists love getting good scoops, right? They always want a good story. Can you think of a better story than, whoa, I just got this information about that this coronavirus COVID-19 leaked from a Chinese lab? I mean, that's the story of a lifetime. But when they're actively working to cut it down and to quash it, then you got to say there's more to this. There's interests at play. So I think when we're looking at that, we're looking how the American news media's take on lab leak lined up so nicely with Chinese propaganda on the same topic, and you're like, hold on a second, there's something going on here. And the fact that no one's even investigating that in the media to say what did go on there, what was the Chinese influence on the American news media, what is it today, why haven't we seen a whole slew of new reporting on lab leak and how this virus emerged, and the fact that there was a virology lab studying these same types of viruses that had a really poor track record and safety. How could we not have reporting on that every single day? So I look at something like that, I'm like, this is, so it doesn't pass the smell test. It actually stinks, it reeks. So that's a big one for me.
I always think like if I hear something major like that in the news, I try to follow or try to see who's making money. You got to follow the money. Who's like, what comes next? And then if something big comes up and it's like, oh, this is making billions of dollars. Okay, well, this happened because so that they can make millions of dollars here, billions of dollars, whatever it is. That's how I like to follow it. I think there's a lot of, you can kind of figure it out that way, whether it's true or not. And like you said, if they did put out the news and it's not true, it would have fizzled out and died. Like they wouldn't have to try and squash it if it wasn't true to begin with. People, they'd know.
Right. And the Chinese government has been paying American news organizations millions and millions of dollars to advertise in these newspapers, in the New York Times, in the Washington Post, in the Wall Street Journal. Its own propaganda outlets like China Daily pay these organizations money. And that money is, at this point in time in the news media, is very precious. They need that resource that comes with a lot of sway, a lot of influence. And when this moment arrives that the Chinese want to use their leverage, it's certainly there. And definitely you follow the money. People always ask me about my book. The book covers 10 different episodes where the New York Times is misreporting changed the course of history. So that's from all the way back to the 1932 Ukraine famine perpetrated by Stalin against Ukrainian peasants, all the way up to today, the 1619 Project. And these are very different incidents, very different episodes. The context is always different. And so people ask, like, what is the common thread? And I always say the common thread is self-interest, often money for the New York Times, The New York Times is a corporate entity, like they are for profit. They're trying to drive a profit, but also power, influence, status, prestige, all those things go along with that. And that's where things go really wrong. When you've got these organizations that are sort of been entrusted to determine how our reality looks, the facts that we establish to be true, and they also have deep financial interests that are overpowering for them at times, then you end up with disaster. You end up with catastrophes that have a huge impact on American society, and I'd say on the world.
Mm-hmm. Just curious, how often do you see like U.S. news in another country? Is it pretty popular? Or is it kind of come up as much as you'd see other countries' news here?
How like if they're doing a better job than the American
I
news
just mean
media?
like in general, like do you see a lot of like U.S. news over in Israel? Like is it common to see it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, you do. You see the like whatever the biggest story is in the US at any given moment, it will make the headlines in other media markets around the world. So definitely in Israel. Israel is particularly US focused. So and I know in Europe, like when I've been around or been at sometimes in England, um, it's the same. Like people really pay attention to what's happening in the US, and they even pay attention to the US media. Like they know a little bit more about what's going on in US media than Americans would about foreign media markets.
Right.
So yeah, there
That's
is
really
definitely
interesting.
that international focus for sure.
And that also reminds me, what do you, I mean, with you being in Israel, what do you think, I mean, purely like conspiracy side is that the Israelis run US media. They own it essentially.
Well, I mean that's there's a classic anti-Semitic trope there about Jewish ownership of media, which
Yeah.
you know is of course Jews, like every other people, own parts of companies or media companies to some extent, but it's a very old idea that goes back to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is a fake conspiracy theory about Jewish control of global power structures.
So you don't believe
So
it?
no,
Oh,
no.
okay. Well, fair enough.
Interesting.
I've heard a lot about that for some reason lately, and it's just like I don't
Yeah.
know. Like they say that it's just, I mean, the U.S. and Israel, Israel is just in cahoots with each other, and I don't know, world domination or whatever they're after. Who knows?
Israel is a very small country
Yeah.
in a very hostile region. The country's roughly the size of New Jersey, got 10 million people. Um, sort of been beset by opposition, adversity, by enmity since its founding, and even before that. And Israel's busy trying to survive. Like world domination is not in the minds of anybody in that country. Day-to-day survival is really what people are focused on.
I was
Yeah.
under the impression that I mean, they have money, they have a strong military, they definitely have religious power. Like they've got a lot going on for them, is what I thought.
And that's true. Yeah. So the Israelis have built a very strong, vibrant economy. They've built a world-class education system, a good healthcare system. Um, it's definitely, there's something on the verge of being miraculous when you think they've done that in 70 years, but it's come with a lot of sacrifice. It's not until recently it was not a very materialistic place. It was a place where people had to cooperate to get by. They
Hmm.
had to share in the labor, share in the burdens, and that was really how the country was formulated. That was the culture of sort of kind of coming together to do something that's basically impossible, which is recreating a country where there was almost nothing for thousands of years. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad they could get it together and bring everybody closer, because it's definitely not like that over here. As you know, it's how do I get mine? How does this benefit me? What do I need to do to get myself better? It's I don't know. It's
Yeah, 100%. That's the key, right? Is it me or is it us? Is it me or is it
yeah,
we? And I
right.
think in the US we're seeing a lot of me.
Hmm.
Um, and around the world, I don't think it's like that. I don't think when I just look around, even being in like Western Europe, it doesn't feel that way. So I think the US has got to sort of wake up to that reality and say we got to look out for a common good, look out for one another.
Yeah, maybe someday.
I doubt it.
I doubt it too, but maybe
Hate to be
someday they'll come
pessimistic,
around.
but yeah. Our country's so freaking divided, it's ridiculous.
With everything, you
Yeah.
name it. You can't say one thing without another way being like, nope, that ain't right.
Mm-hmm. It's
That's right.
interesting to know that Israel's the size that you said. Like
I thought it was bigger than that.
yeah,
Really thought it was bigger
I
than
didn't
that.
have it as something huge in my head, but I would have never put it as the same size roughly as New Jersey. That's really interesting.
And with 10 million people,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, small place. You can drive the width of it from west to east, I'd say in about an hour at the narrowest point, probably less.
no
You could maybe
kidding.
drive it
That's
in
so
about,
crazy.
I would say about 30 minutes. You drive west to east at its narrowest point. It's pretty
Now,
crazy.
would you be driving flat or would you be driving round?
There we go, flat Earth.
You
Oh,
you
man.
strike me as a guy that calls flat Earth massive bullshit.
I mean, as far as I know, yeah, I'm going with the Earth being round on this one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we do too. We're not flat earthers, but I'm very
that's good.
entertained by it. Man, I don't even know where to go with this. It's heavy stuff, and the information war right now is like everything. It seems like that's the heart of what's going on. It's just constant fight for who can say what, and let's censor this person. Let's block
Mhm.
this. It's just insane. Like Donald Trump's banned from Twitter, and then you get the Taliban guy on Twitter. Like, what the hell's going on? This is
Well, and it's like Denzel said. He said if you
Denzel
if you
Washington.
yeah.
You friends with Denzel
No,
Washington?
I seen him on TikTok. But anyways,
Oh, okay.
he said like if for the newspaper example, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read the newspaper, you're misinformed.
Oh, I like that.
So how do you win there? It's all about like reporters who can put it out first, whether it's true, whether it's false, whatever. Who can get the word out first?
Shout out to Denzel
And it's
Washington.
an issue. We need reliable, true, whether it hurts or whether it's good news. It just needs to be the truth. Period. I
Yeah,
feel
well,
strongly about that.
I think like, it used to be like when you listen to music, you would go buy an album, right?
Hmm.
That's how we listened. We got CDs on an album or vinyl or whatever. And today, that is sort of the case where in the music industry, the album stopped mattering and it was all about the song.
Hmm.
And there's sort of an analogy there with reporters and newspapers. Like the newspapers were like the album. Like you would just be like, oh, it's going to be a good album. Same thing, you'd say, this is a good newspaper. I can trust them. Today, I think you can just take the brand of the newspaper or the news organization out of the equation. Look at the reporter. Just look who they are. Like go back and like when you see a story about a given reporter, take 5-10 minutes, find out who they are, find out what they covered on issues that are important to you. Look at how they did it. Did they do a good job? Did they do a bad job? Did they have any kind of controversy or scandal that was associated with their reporting? Does it feel honest? And then, once you've gotten a sort of assessment of that individual, then you can like stick with their reporting, or you can just say, no, this person is not for me. So I think it's really a question of not throwing out the baby with the bathwater and saying
Hmm.
there are tons and tons and tons of great reporters and good reporters and even mediocre reporters, which is good enough, who are honest. So I think it's on us. It's not enough to just be like, oh, the media sucks, because it might actually suck, but it doesn't help us any just to say that or just to leave it be at that. I think it's really a matter of saying, all right, this is the media, let's say by and large is flawed, problematic, but there's at least 10% of those people who are doing good work. And
Yeah.
we can take their work and we can build on it. We can spread their work. We can find out who they are and do our own part in that kind of chain, that chain of custody of information.
Do you think it's possible that can be possible though? Because I believe too that there is good reporters out there. I've seen a couple of them recently that have challenged things and kind of put themselves on a chopping block because of it. But I feel like under the umbrella of all the companies they work for, that there's going to be so much control and direction feeding and all that kind of stuff. Like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
they're almost they're set up to fail basically,
You know.
unless it's like an
Yeah,
independent type of situation.
which a lot of them are. So
Yeah.
you've got like reporters who, I don't know, a few years ago, a year or two, even 5 years ago, were working in big corporate media companies, and they were very high profile people in those companies. And today they're independent, literally on their own. They are running their own thing on Substack or on YouTube or wherever it might be. You look at Megyn Kelly, she, Fox News reporter who was in a big network, now doing her own thing. Barry Weiss from the New York Times, she's now running her own thing. Glenn Greenwald from The Intercept, he's now doing his own thing on Substack. Michael Moore is, great filmmaker and writer. He's now doing his own thing. So, and he always was. But there are options out there. There are people who are actually not under a corporate umbrella, and they are not beholden to someone else's interests. And I think it's like, if you go out and look for those people, you'll find them.
So that's what it is, really, because most the average person, I think, doesn't think to look up, and they go for the McDonald's or Burger King, CNN, Fox News type shit.
Right.
You don't think to look into independent research.
That's right. That's right. But like, it's like, just like you could look at it in even in like consumer products, like, yeah, sure, there's like Budweiser, Miller Lite, but then if you want to find the real good stuff, go find those craft beers. And it's the same kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Look at those like indie guys who are working a little harder. They're doing a little bit more. They're going a little bit further to make sure that what they're doing is really of value and the quality is good. And like those are the kind of journalists, reporters, producers of film and audio, podcast, or whatever it might be. And they're like, I met a guy recently who he did a podcast series about the Haditha massacre in Iraq, which was involved a bunch of Marines fighting in the Iraq War who were accused of killing a lot of women and children. And I was looking into it for my book, and I was trying to understand what happened there, and I just couldn't figure it out. I was like reading all these books, like you couldn't get the story straight. This guy made this documentary, movie, and podcast over the course of something like 10 years. And it's like a work of art. I mean, you listen to that podcast, it's moving, it's fact-based, it's investigative, but you come away from it with real clarity. So that's the kind of thing that's out there today. And it's like, there's plenty of it out there. So we don't need the McDonald's or the Burger King options anymore. Like, we've got all that good stuff in the middle.
It's hard to find that guy though. You know what I mean? It's like, I got to go to New Jersey to get a sub sandwich or something like that. That's just not available.
You got to put the work in.
So hard to find.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of the internet. It's like you can find it without having to get off your chair, and just like it just takes a little bit of intention to say like, all right, what's the most important topic to me? What's the most important issue to me right now? Is it something political? Is it Afghanistan? Is it like what's going on with the virus, the pandemic? Is it vaccine? What is it? Like, what am I really into? And then find those people and don't stop, really like put in the work.
Yeah. I agree.
Quality over quantity.
100%.
It is. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to share or touch on before we jump into our 6 questions?
No, I hope if people are interested in that question of media, like to take a look at the book, The Gray Lady Winked, which is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Book Depository, wherever books are sold, as they say. Or if you want to just get a sense of what it's about, just check it out on thegrayladywinked.com. That's gray with an A, not an E. And you'll go get a sense of what that book is and why I think it's worth a read, in my humble opinion. But that's it. It's been a cool conversation getting to know you guys. So
likewise,
dive into.
There's a lot of other stuff I'd like to talk about, but I know you're pressed for time.
Yeah, we don't want to hold you up. I want to make sure you get to your next interview. But I'd like to have you back on later on. But your
awesome.
book, we're going to get a copy of it as well. We have some of our previous guest books up there as well.
Right.
And for the 100th episode, if you're listeners, we will give away one book from one of our previous guests. I'm going to put a poll up. Y'all tell me which one you want. We'll do a raffle, and one of y'all could win it. So his book is one of the options. Real quick, the gray with an A and gray with an E. I never understood that. What's going on there? Why is there an E and an A?
The E is the British, and the A is the American spelling.
Oh, them sons of bitch redcoats are trying to change the gray color. I don't know what it is lately. The last 20 episodes have attacked the British listeners.
Like spelling color with a U.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I love
you guys.
Keep it
lively. Keep it lively.
Yeah.
You know I love you, Brits. All right. So we're going into the 6 questions. I'm going to ask you these questions. They're pretty laid back. Just give us your honest opinion on them, what you're feeling from the heart. This is the best questions you're ever going to get asked in your life, man. All right. Number 1. You have the power to create one law. Which law do you create and why?
I think I would create a law about creating more transparency in media and money. So like news organizations have to be transparent. Just like if you're a nonprofit organization, you have to show your financials, including donors. I would say the same thing for media. Like, show us where your money's coming from. Is it coming from China, Russia, or Iran, or like where is that money coming from? Who's advertising? Like, how do you
What are
make
they
sure
getting out of
that,
it?
yeah, let's just go for true transparency across the board in media.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. It fits your whole vibe too. Well done, sir. Number 2, what 3 words would you choose to describe yourself?
I would say, I'm an explorer. Always got that part of me. I would say I'm pretty damn stubborn. So keep me on a book like this for 20 years almost. And I would also call myself pretty conscientious. Like I try to like think about just what's the right thing to do. What's the right thing? I think it's a good question.
Good. Yeah, that is good. I love when our guests choose words that I can't spell too. Conscientious. I don't think I've ever written it, and I don't think I'm ever going to try. Number 3, what do you want to be remembered for?
I'd love to be remembered for, I'd say being a good father and husband, number 1, and son and brother. I would also want to be remembered for writing books that help people create meaning in their lives, help them understand where meaning lies for them, and inspires them to take action, that they can do that thing that is their own adventure, their own exploration, gives them that little bit of faith and confidence in that act.
Good. Solid. Good. Number 4, my favorite. What is something that you like that most people don't know about you?
I really have always had this connection with fashion. I've really been interested in fashion, design.
Shit. Interesting.
Yeah, I
Greatest.
never, it's like it's not what you really associate with a writer. Usually the writer's just like kind of in the attic with the books. But yeah, I've always liked how people dress, why they dress different, like what makes them dress in a certain way.
Yeah.
So always been something that's fascinating to me, and I think, I think it's like, as shallow as the fashion industry is, there's also something to it, because they're determining how we look, how we appear to each other every single day.
Right. Wow, you sold that really well. I'm very interested now.
It is interesting. Like, I've always wanted, like, there's some clothes that I'm like, wow, that's really cool, I'd like to wear that. But then I'm like, that's not me though. It's just not my personality. But I should just wear it because I like it, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing this damn hat, bro. I wear it because I like it.
That's it. That's it.
I like my hat accessories. So who are you wearing, Mr. Ashley?
No, nothing. Like, it's not,
Make something up.
I don't
make up a French name.
Cavalli.
Oh, I thought it was a Cavalli, the Summer's line. Yeah. So on a scale of fashion, rate me and JP right now. Who's more fashionable? I'm wearing a dad bod, just regular polo.
I feel like you guys could swap hats, and that could be an interesting combo.
Bro,
his
head can swim in my hat. I have to have custom hats.
Because JP might have a little more of like a Heisenberg look there, which is pretty cool.
Jesus,
yeah, that is big. That is a big hat.
I have a monster head, bro. Monster head. Let's finish the episode like
it looks
this.
cool. It looks cool. I like it. Yeah.
We're gonna make JP get more flair. All right.
Yeah.
Now I look like I belong on a golf course.
Yeah, you look like you're going for the links.
Oh man, I like it. It's good look, man.
All right, good.
It accentuates your face
like a magician.
Just look, turn your head to the side so the camera can see. Yeah, look at that. That's sexy, bro.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Oh, we're coming back with a weird hat.
Got a feather and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a pimp, bro. All right, number 5. If you could have any superpower, which would you choose?
That's a good question, and it's not a great answer, but I would fly. I think that would just be the coolest thing in the world to fly around. Just
Yeah, it is a
fly.
good answer, man. There's nothing wrong with flying. Flying
But
so
fly, like
freaking awesome.
the one superpower, like when people say flying, it's like I'd also want the superpower to be able to breathe with less oxygen in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be flying, you got to be able to breathe.
Right.
Ooh, no one's ever thought about that when they mention flying.
It's actually
More and more
2
it makes sense,
superpowers.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The power to fly at any atmosphere with no problem.
Exactly.
Nice. Yeah, I talked about it several podcasts back, but I had a dream one time that I could actually fly, and it was the most realistic flying dream I've ever had, and it was freaking awesome. Like I woke up like so bummed out that I can't fly for real. I was like, shit, I thought I could fly. It was such a badass dream though. It was incredible. All right, last question from golfer E. Willie. Number 6. You can know the absolute truth on any conspiracy theory. Which would you choose and why?
Again, great question. Not a great answer, but I'm going to give it because it's the answer, which is JFK.
Yeah.
I would just love to know what really, I mean, an American president was assassinated in the middle of the 20th century. Nobody knows who did it. Like that's got to raise some alarms there. So to
there's
have
people
a
that
full
know.
account, yeah, there's people that know. I'm just not one of them, and I'd love to be. So
that's the true like turnkey conspiracy. If you got the key to that, you got the key to a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
That was a huge turning point in a lot of political games. I think there's a lot of stuff happened because of that and after that.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to throw it out there that this hat stinks,
I'm
and
sure
JP needs to
work every day.
fucking. Oh, you wear it to work?
Yeah.
Oh, gross! I'm glad I haven't showered yet. Yeah, I got lice and Ebola and COVID in my hair now.
My hair's way too short for that. It wouldn't matter.
All right, man. Well, can you pitch your book one more time, where people can find it, what website you have, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so the book is called The Gray Lady Winked. The Gray Lady is a nickname for the New York Times. People call it the Gray Lady. And when we say that she winked, it's, she did a little playing around there with the truth. So that's what the book is called. The website is thegrayladywinked.com. And the book's on Amazon, same name. And I'm on Twitter, Ashley, ASHLEY, Rindsberg, RINDSBERG. So yeah, I'm always available. I'm chatting and spreading the word.
Hell yeah, brother.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Any other books you're working on right now?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a few. There's a novel coming down the pike. Another working on fiction. Definitely a lineup. Good stuff.
Nice. Any fashion books?
I thought about it. I kicked it around, but at the end of the day, it's not my calling. You got to make choices. You got to make hard choices. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, don't sell yourself out yet, man. It might click at some point.
We'll see.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show.
Thank you, guys.
Good to get to know you.
Appreciate it. You as well. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we'll be in touch with you, sir. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
Wolfpack.